Hello, sanibonani babukeli, siyanamukela kuhlelo lethu la namhlanje, and thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right, igama lami ngu-Alisha, intombi yakajali. Nikhumbule babukeli, asinivalele ngaphandle, ninakwazi phela nani ukuthi nibambe iqhaza ngokuhamba kwesikhathi ngenkulumo esobe sibhizi ngayo namhlanje ngokuthi nisithinte la e-studio. Ingcingo zethu u-011 714 6918 noma 011 714 6919. Ungasithumela ne-email ku-consumer@sabc.co.za. Catch us on Facebook, Yilungelo, as well as go Twitter @Yilungelo. We eat food for our survival, but very few of us can imagine that food can pose a very serious danger to your life if not consumed responsibly and within healthy guidelines. That is why South Africans are now getting more and more concerned with the growing problems of eating disorders. This is more prevalent among young women, especially younger Weight Watchers. Sometimes the amount of food that we eat or the lack thereof can lead to extreme health problems such as unhealthy body weight and other diseases, and can sometimes be unfortunately fatal. Before delving deeper into this issue, let's first take a look at this background insert.
Abaningi besifazane lapha eMzansi Afrika banenkinga yokungadli ngendlela efaneleyo. Banezinkolelo zokuthi umuntu ubukeka kangcono uma emncane ngomzimba, kanti abanye badla ngokweqileyo. Lokhu kungabanga izifo ezingagcina ziyingozi empilweni yakho. uDebbie Morris oyi-dietitian uthi landa mihla yonke izinga labantu abanalenkinga.
Eating disorders is a general term that's referring to psychological disorders, but they involve abnormalities in eating. So there are many different types of eating disorders, ranging from anorexia to binge eating to bulimia, just to mention a few, but they all have some sort of abnormality in eating. That can range from starvation to binge eating to purging, commonly known as vomiting. And what's important to realize is that all of them can take control of your life.
Izimpawu zabantu abanenkinga yokungadli ngendlela efanele zehlukahlukene kuvamisa ukuba yilezi: izinwele eziqothukayo, ukuba negazi elinganele emzimbeni, ukukhathala kwamathambo, amatshe aba ezinsweni noma zingabe zisasebenza, ukuba nenkinga yokukhulelwa noma uphunyekelo yisisu, isikhumba esingenayo impilo, ukukhubazeka komqondo, uzizwe udineka kalula noma ukushesha ukukhohlwa, noma ke ube nenkinga yokuphathwa amazinyo, isifo sikashukela kanye nesenhliziyo. Kubalekile ukuvashela udokotela wakho noma umtholampilo oseduzane nawe uma unalezi zimpawu, ungaze uzithole usunesifo esingagcina sithathe umphefumulo wakho.
You always want to make sure that when you're eating a balanced meal. Now, how to achieve this? There's so much information out there and we're always bombarded with all the nutrition information, but if you can stick to some basic principles, you can get it right. So what you could aim for is to get half of your plate vegetables. Okay, so when you look at that plate, 50% of your meal should be coming from veggies. All right. After that, you've got half a plate still left. Focus then on doing a lean protein, something like fish, chicken or meat. The key is that it's lean. You are not eating that big fat layer of fat on the steak or that crispy skin on your chicken. Those are things that we want to try and remove from the diet. Those are the unhealthy fats.
Abathengi bacabanga ukuthi ukudla okunempilo kudla ephaketheni, kanti ke ocwepheshe bathi lokhu akulona iqiniso neze. Kubalekile ukuthi sazi ukudla okudingwa umzimba, okubalekela ukudla okungenayo impilo noma ke oncamnce. Sizijwayeze ukuthenga ukudla okunemsoco efaneleyo noma izithelo. Angeke sizithole siya kodokotela njalo, kanti lokhu kungasongela imali eningi. Nompumelelo mthethwa, yilungelo lakho.
Sibonga kakhulu for that background insert. That was from our producer Onompumelelo Mthethwa. Ukusiza phela nathi uthi udingide lo daba lengozi zokudla ngendlela engalungile asamukele izivakashi zethu. Sinayo sis Precious Ncayana yena ofundisa ngezindlela zokudla phecelezi i-dietitian. Sibe naye noGilliam Waters Deploy yena onguchwepheshe mayelana nezimo zomqondo, i-clinical psychologist ukusho. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you, Sis Precious?
How things are you, Alicia?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, if you can start, Gilliam, if you can tell us from where you come from, the organization you come from, as well as you, Sis Precious.
Alicia, I'm an independent clinical psychologist stationed at Denmark Hospital in Pretoria East. And I'm also the administrator for a website called Eating Disorders South Africa. Which is an information-based website trying to supply information for people trying to look on information regarding this topic.
All right, Sis Precious.
Okay, my first qualification, I'm a pharmacist, I'm an independent pharmacist. I run campaigns on healthy eating.
Precious.
Okay, ngirana ama campaign on healthy eating. Ngisiza abantu ukuthi babuyele endleleni ababedla ngazo kudala. You know, masikhula besitshala sidle engadini and stuff like that. Manje abantu abaningi sebejwayele ukuthi nje bayothenga sebeyanqena. Yabona qala isinkwa kwakuyinto ongayidli njalo at breakfast, but now you would eat soft porridge which you cooked yourself. But now abantu sebethanda ukuthi badle lezo zinto, so mina ukuthi ngisiza abantu ukuthi badle ngendlela, you know, nabathanda ukuslima ukuthi badle ngendlela ukuthi mawuslima awuthi ukuthi uyayeka ukudla completely, you still eat but in a healthy way.
Okay, all right, now let's get into today's topic. What are eating disorders? If you can name just the most common ones and what it really tell us about the effects of these on people.
All right, Alicia, you're going to get quite a few range of eating disorders within the spectrum of eating pathology. Your most prominent or easily identifiable would be anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. But for people that don't necessarily qualify outrightly for those specific diagnoses, there's a sub-threshold diagnosis called eating disorders not otherwise specified. Basically means they also have a problem but not as serious. Then there are also other eating conditions like obesity. There are even new conditions coming out in our latest version of the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual called bigorexia and orthorexia, but I won't go into that too much at this stage.
All right, now Sis Precious, ngicela uchazele nje usichazele ngesinto njengoba bekubhudgeliyema ukuthi kahle kahle le anorexia siyezwa igama layo inawo amagama esinto usichazele kabanzi.
Okay, i-anorexia ile condition la abantu umuntu angadli khona ngoba efuna ukuluza iweight akaji nenhlobo, you know, noma edlile sometimes kuyenzeka ukuthi akuphalaze lokho, yabona. So uzothola ukuthi udla istick celery, you know, into engawakhi nje umzimba mawudli yodwa, i-right mawudla nezinye izinto but yona iyodwa nje kufana ukuthi awudlile. Bese ibulimia ilabantu bayadla iweight yabo inormal mari njalo emva kokudla bayahamba bayophalaza, yabona. So leyo i-dangerous ngoba ukudla once sesiswini sekumixane ne-acid, so mawuphalaza kubuya kuze la entanyeni kushisa i-esophagus like i-pipe yaphimbo, and then namazinyo ababa nenkinga, yabona uthola ayabola ngoba i-acid yawashisa amazinyo, yabona, and stuff like that. Bese kuba khona into abayibiza i-binge eating, which is very common as well. I-binge eating ukuthi umuntu uzama ukuluza iweight, uzohlala angadli ilanga lonke, mari la eqala khona edla in 2 hours uzobedle inqwaba yokudla okungaka.
So usedlela ilanga lonke leli ekade engadli.
So labo bantu labo sometimes then mase besuthi kakhulu bafila guilty, then nabo bayazama ukuthi either baphalaze bafaka umunwe baphalaze, or abanye uthola ukuthi umuntu uya exercise kakhulu, yabona, ukuze athi ubhena lama calories lawa awathathile, or omunye uthola ukuthi uthatha amaphilisi lawa asetshenziswa abantu ukhipha amanzi emzimbeni, mhlawumbe mawune hypertension and stuff, bona bayikhiphela ukuthi babe banciphe kancane emzimbeni, which is very dangerous.
Awuchaze Sis Precious, why ku dangerous ukuthi uhlanganise amaphilisi ayenzelwe ezinye izinto ukuthi wehle ngomzimba?
Ku-dangerous ngoba lawo maphilisi lawo uyayuwanikezwe udokotela ngoba unesifo esihambisana nawo. So wena mawathathela into engahambisani naleyo ibanga i-danger because mawukhipha amanzi emzimbeni akuphuma amanzi kuphela kuphuma no sawoti like abo potassium nabo sodium nabo calcium. So inhliziyo ukuze iphampe kahle fanele kube nebalance yalama electrolytes. Yabona fanele kube enough upotassium no sawoti ufanele ube ubalance. So mawungekho ama muscles enhliziyo ayathamba. Yabona uthola inhliziyo sishaya kancane and mawungayitholi usizo ngesikhathi kungenzeka ukuthi ushone.
All right. Now, Gilliam, they always they call eating disorders shame-based disorders. As a clinical psychologist, what exactly does that mean?
Alicia, shame-based refers to the term where we describe these people being very shy of the problem they're experiencing. Eating disorders are coupled with strange behaviors, bizarre behaviors, purging behaviors or highly restrictive behaviors, which causes a lot of guilt in the people.
If you can tell us what could lead to such indications, Gilliam.
What do you mean by indications?
What can lead into them feeling that they're ashamed of these body problems that they have within themselves? Hence, they're called shame-based disorders.
Well, the thing is, it's regarding a lot of the behaviors that they're actually trying to use to try and lose weight. Restriction in itself is not a very highly controversial way to lose weight, but when you're sticking your finger down your throat, or when you're engaging in laxative abuse or something to that extent, which are not common behaviors, which are things that people struggle to understand. The general person can't understand why a person would abuse laxatives to try and lose weight. It's not something that in general discussion we'll share with each other. So there's a lot of guilt and shame associated with it. There's a lot of feeling of I can't actually share this with anybody. I can't dare share this with somebody because if they find out, I'm either going to be in trouble,
All right,
I'm going to be judged.
Let's hold it there for now, Gilliam. Kwamanje mbukela sithi kwetolo ungayindawo siyabuya khona manje ithi nginikhumbuza ukuthi phela nani ngabamba iqhaza kulolu hlelo. Our studio numbers is 011 714 6918 noma 714 6919. Ungasithumela email ku consumer@sabc.co.za usithinte ku Facebook na ku Twitter siyabuya khona manje. Sinamukele futhi babukeli sisakhuluma ngesifo sokungadli ngendlela efanele phecelezi ama-eating disorders naseyinkinga enkulu eningizimu Afrika ukuthi na ubamba iqhaza mbukeli sithinte khona la ku 011 714 6918 noma 714 6919 ungasithumela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za usithinte futhi na ku Facebook noma ku Twitter. Okay, I want to talk to you first, as Precious. You wanted to add ukuthi yini okay, we're going to take a caller first. We have a Jabulani on the line. Jabulani, sakwamukela Yilungelo Lakho.
Yebo, sanibonani sister.
Siyabonga bhuti wami ngokuthi usithinte. Ungabe unombuzo noma unombono?
Cha nami nginombuzo ke nami sister kahle la. Nenkinga kusho ukuthi mina anginankinga kusho ukuthi mina ngumuntu wezulu ngihlale ngiphalaza njalo ekusena ngodludla ngaphalazeli. Manje mina ngabe nginganisebenzela mina lo.
Okay, siyabonga bhuti Jabulani. Sicela ulalele kumabona kude wakho sis Precious. He uyaphalaza basically Gilliam, it means he takes we puts in water in the morning to take out in the day before. I think the messes from the day before or the juices from the day before. It's a way of taking out bile, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's practiced by many of our people. Like abantu abaningi bayaphalaza nami ekhaya ngikhule nje kuphalazwa and stuff. Mara ukuphalaza ayikho into ethi phalaza ubophalaza mawuzwa ukuthi inhliziyo incane kuyacaphuzela ukuthi phalaza ngoba kusuke kusho ukuthi khona into engalungile ngaphakathi. But lo mkhuba ukuthi uvuke ekseni uboil amanzi waphuze bese uyaphalaza awulungile ngoba lokho kuphalaza even though akukho kudle ekseni ngoba baphalaza before badle. Yonke into igwinyayo iacid ya releaseka, so lamanzi mayebuya asuke sebuya ne acid.
Okay.
So abantu abaningi abajwayele ukuphalaza nako Eastern Cape uthola uthola ukuthi later on in life bane throat cancer yabona caused by that irritation, so it's very dangerous. So if abantu emakhaya benganciphisa ekuphalazeni, you know, singamukela.
Okay, all right. Now, Sis Precious, as a dietitian, yini oke wa arrive kuyona ukuthi yenza abantu ukuthi babe nalama eating disorders? Ngiyazi uGilliam ubesizamile ukusichazela, but wena ku experience yakho yini epush abantu ukuthi baze bafike kuleso simo sokuthi akasakhoni ngisho ukuthi acontrol indlela adla ngayo?
No, kaningi imedia yabona abantu abasibabona komabona kude emaphepheni omagazini ukuthi labo bantu aba successful abama model ukuthi imizimba yabo mincane yabona, and kufana noma kusukela ebunganeni mani izingane even esikoleni amantombazane lawa aba popular athandwa kakhulu uthola ukuthi vele bazalwe bebahle benemizimba emincane yabona. So wena makukuthi uzalwe nje uyisidudla, you always feel ukuthi mhlambe, you know, you always wish ukuthi angathi ungaba usibanibani yabona. So then in your own way uzame ukuthi ungadli ngendlela okufanele udle ngayo yabona, uzame ukuthi unciphise, because abanye abantu ngisho nga diet kanjani angeke uze ube islender ngoba uzalwe umkhulu indlela odalelwe ngayo ukuthi ube mkhulu. And imedia ingadlala irole ekuthenini isize abantu yabona ukuthi ukuba happy and successful, it's not only about being slim yabona. Ike yenze nje i-campaign yabona i-showcase abantu aba-successful ababi nabakhulu yabona.
Okay, now Gilliam, she's taking a very important thing here. We're talking about the media influences on our young children. Now, as a clinical psychologist, what kind of clientele do you deal with? What kind of people that come to you looking for help? Is it also people that have been media influenced to say that they don't look as perfect as they should?
You know what, Alicia, there's a very strong correlation which we notice with the concept of perfectionism and eating disorders. A lot of what these people are trying to achieve is in their own mind, they picture perfect shape or weight or concept of who and what they should be. And as Precious might have been mentioning, you know, the media and the message that is portrayed from the media in terms of how a person should always work to be a better person or look better or present better or be thinner or be whatever, you know, get this cell phone or get that car. There's a lot of that mechanism that feeds into this concept of trying to achieve this perfect picture. This picture dictates, you know, that I can't be good enough unless I meet a certain standard. I can't be good enough unless I weigh a certain weight or look a certain way. Which is a very vulnerable message or a very critical message for people in vulnerable stages of their lives. A lot of teenagers feed into that. A lot of youngsters at university struggling with this concept that I'm not good enough as I am, so I have to lose weight to look better because this is how celebrities present, this is how other people around me present. They're always trying to be better than what they are and never being able to accept who they are.
To accept themselves for who they are. We're going to take uBongani from KZN. But Bongani, sakamukela YilungeloLakho Lakho?
Yebo sawona.
Yebo bhuti, sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Yebo ubonga nawethula wadlangezo. Yazi nginenkinga la bengifisa ukwazi ukuthi uma mhlambe unegelemo ukuthi umuntu odla kakhulu manje ade ngiyokhuza ngiye kwenye pharmacy bangitshela ukuthi ngenza ukuthi nginegelemo manje ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi ikuphi ukudla kumele ngikudle ukuze mhlambe ngingabi negelemo.
Okay, siyabonga bhuti Bongani, ulalele nje lapho kumabona kude wakho. Sis Precious, I think ungamphendula bhuti.
Ungamphendula. I mean ikelemo sihlala nazo, so angeke ungabi nazo ikelemo. So ngokwempilo baye ba-advise ukuthi maybe every 6 months fanele uthathe something yoku remove ikelem. So angeke uthi uzo-avoida ikelem ngoba uzogcina songadli ukudla okuphuma emhlabathini like ama-veggies especially my raw, you know, izinto ezithintane nomhlabathi yizo ezivama ukugcwala ikelem. So uma ukuthi umuntu ohlushwa ikelem every 6 months ungaya e-pharmacy, you know, uthenge something like abo-Vemox, kukhona nane single dose, uthenge i-Vemox uyigwinye. Yeah, twice a year, even sometimes once a year, it's enough.
Okay, and it goes throughout wonkama ages, it's not age specific?
Yeah, it's not age specific.
Okay, now, I wanted to talk about the African trademark syndrome that we also touched on it earlier on, Gilliam. Whereas we as Africans feel that the bigger that you are, you know, we're still under that perception that the bigger that you are, the healthier that you are. How do you feel then in these certain stages, especially when people come to you and they're obese because they've been overeating?
It becomes a difficult situation because you're fighting cultural heritage, you're fighting cultural ideals and ideas. in essence, you actually have to then look at the person as a whole and try to see, is there really a problem here and to what extent the problem exists. And obviously, if the problem is there, we have to help as best we can. But when cultural heritage comes into it, you're fighting a very difficult battle in that sense.
All right. Okay, we're going to take Utobile from Mpumalanga. Sisitobile sekwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Kunjani?
Siyaphila siswami, sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Ngicela ukwazi nginenkinga kakhulu mina.
Yebo, qhubeka sisi.
Yeah.
Okay, we seem to have lost Utobile on the line. Is there anything you want to add there, Precious, on the African trademark syndrome? Ufika uthini wena umuntu umefika kweni obese and uzokutshela ukuthi cha iculture yami ukuthi ngibe mngaka?
I think it's two parts. Ukuba ukondleka kusho ukuthi uhealthy. Abantu besifazane makuya nge-fat to muscle ratio. Abantu besifazane fanele kube babe more fat than abantu besilisa.
Why is that, Sis Precious?
Nje ngendlela ama-fat you know amafutha ane role ayidlala emzimbeni womuntu. Kufana mawungenawo amafutha makubanda, uyabona? Ayikho into protectayo, they insulator against cold, yabona. So market, let's say you are stranded somewhere awunakudla, umuntu ongenawo amafutha ushona kuqala ngoba let's say you go for a day without eating anything, you know, your body will burn glycogen or
okay, ngithatha Utobile.
Okay,
Precious. Utobile sekwamukela futhi kwilungelo lakho sis.
Kunjani sisi?
Siyaphila siswami, sicela uqhubeke nombuzo.
Ngicela ukuze mawudla kakhulu then unenkinga yamathumbu like amathumbu adonseka nawe then kusho ukuthi kwenzakalani like so.
Sicela uphinde ubuze sisi.
Mawudla kakhulu and then amathumbu akho adonseka like.
Oh, udonseka ngaphakathi?
Yeah, nje esibonweni so.
Oh, okay, all right. Ulalele lapho sisi nesizophendula umbuzo wakho mesibuye. Mbukela sithi ubuyela ezitolo, please uhlale nathi ungayindawo. Welcome back. Usabukele uhlelo Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Siza kwena bukhoma la kumahamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Ukuze phela na ubeke iqhaza, ubambe iqhaza la ungasithinta e-studio mbukeli ku 011 714 6918 noma 714 6919. Ungasendela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Usithole ku Facebook na ku Twitter. Okay, Gilliam, apparently you want to answer this question that she had. She eats too much and then she has a pulling sensation from her belly button. What caused that? What could be the cause of that?
You know what, Alicia, I'm not too sure on the details of what the caller was saying, but it sounds as it might be just a normal binge. Binge is characterized by having an abnormal amount of food in a very short space of time, usually characterized by this feeling that I'm not in control. Might be that she just went through a binge and she's actually sitting there with her stomach actually bulging to such an extent. It actually becomes very uncomfortable for people.
Yeah, but now what can she do to help alleviate such problems?
Well, in essence, you know, when you're struggling with binges or regular binges, that actually qualifies you possibly for having an eating disorder, and that actually might mean that you need to find professional help or treatment for that.
All right.
You know, your diagnostic criteria would be about 2 episodes a week, where you're going through this experience of having a vast amounts of foods without being able to control yourself and just shoving it down your throat or not really being conscious of what you're eating. And if that's something that you're struggling with really on a regular basis, it might be necessary that you go and find out whether you've got a problem, and need treatment for it.
All right, we're going to take with Thomas from Mpumalanga. Thomas, good afternoon. Okay, we've lost Thomas. We're going to carry on now. I wanted to find out, Gilliam, they say that some eating disorders are genetic or hereditary. Is this in fact true?
There is a link between genetics and eating disorders. If you go and look at the literature, you'll find that there is a lot of the theory that focuses on parental children crossover.
Okay, let's take Thomas quickly, Gilliam, before you explain. Thomas, YilungeloLakho.
Good day, how are you, my sister?
Siyaphila bhuti wami, sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Bengicela ukubuza lapho kusese ukuthi bungozi bekuba nema-ulcer yini?
Ama-ulcer.
Yebo.
Okay, all right. Siyabonga but Thomas umamele kumabonakude wakho. He wants to know what ulcers are.
Okay, ama-ulcer ilonda ngaphakathi kusukela la emphinjeni kuze kuyofika emathunjini lawa amancane.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ngaba
so-
bangwa yini sis Precious?
Ama-ulcer ayahlukana. Sometimes i-diet yakho iyakubanga like mawudla mawuhlala udla upelepele njalo.
Okay.
Yabona. Noma ukwi-medication like ama-painkillers, ama-anti-inflammatories, yabona, like ama-aspirin, ama-dispirin, nabo-brufen, izithandwa abantu, nabo-penamol, amaphilisi abrown,
ama-painkillers
aweqolo,
nje,
nama-joints,
okay.
and stuff. Yeah, so abanga ilonda ngaphakathi. So i-acid mayifika because i-acid ihlala ikhona ngoba udla kumele idigeste ukudla ukuze kuzokhona ukuya egazini. So mawune-ulcer njalo mawudla uzwa ipain. Yabona, depending on the severity. Mayilokhu ikhulu i-ulcer kuyafika la isibleed khona. Yabona. Yeah, mhlambe mawuye e-toilet yabona ungabona okusagazana or uthola amakaka amnyama enziwa ama-ulcer. So nokuphuza kakhulu kuyayenza i-ulcer, nokudla okunamafutha kakhulu kuyayenza i-ulcer because more amafutha emaningi ekudleni i-encourage ukuthi akudinga i-acid eningi ukuze izobreaka down lawo mafutha ukuze lokho kudla kukhona ukuthi umzimba usebenzise.
Okay, but ngiyacabanga ukuthi ufuna ukwazi futhi ukuthi ngabe kuyenzeka yini ukuthi ama-ulcers are caused by an eating disorder. Is it maybe a result of an eating disorder?
Mayila phezulu kungenzeka. Yabona, ngoba i-acid uthola ukuthi i-pH konta ba measure ngayo i-acid abayibiza i-pH la phezulu ihlukile kunase esiswini. So mawuthatha into la esiswini uyiletha la phezulu ifikishisa yenza isilonda. Yeah, sometimes mawukuthi uyavomita emveni kokuthi udlile, yabona, then ungaba ne-ulcer la phezulu emphinjeni ngasemphinjeni.
Okay, Thembi from Mpumalanga siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo sisi njani?
Siyaphila siswami. Sicela usibuze umbuzo noma umbona.
Yebo mama, ngisacela ukubuza ukuthi uma ekseni nginenkinga yokuthi ngingabi ne-appetite khona ukudla mangivuka ekseni ngidle mhlawumbe mase kusonilanga kanje after 1. So ngabe inkinga enye yama-eating disorders noma?
Okay, ima sister uyadla throughout the day noma awukhona ukudla nje ekseni kuphela or uyakhona ukudla lunch bese udla idina?
Cha, ngidla i-lunch ne-dinner kuphela kodwa mangidla nakhona ngidle kakhulu.
Oh, suthi unenkinga kahle appetite.
Yes.
Okay. Oba ima system sicela ubambe on the line nangu sis Precious i-dietitian ufuna ukukhuluma nawe directly.
Umzimba wakho ungakanani system, uyisidudla or unomzimba omncane?
Nomzimba olingene nje kahle, ngiweya 69 kgs.
Okay, no siyabonga.
Okay, siyabonga sicela ulalele kumabonekude wakho sisithembi, siyabonga umbuzo. Do you want to address that? She's pretty petite. She weighs 69, but she doesn't have an appetite in the morning. I actually have the same problem. I only eat later on in the day. Now she wants to know if that is an underlying stage towards eating disorder, or does she in fact have an eating disorder?
Does she then eat late in the day?
Yeah, she does. She eats, but she says in very small portions.
It might be. It's not going to be very easy to say just on that limited information. But if she feels that it's a problem, she could just consult with a GP or a dietitian to actually make sure. But when she is actually purposefully restricting, it'll be regarding why she actually restricts. Is she avoiding food because she's scared of food or she doesn't want to eat food? Or is it just because she's just not hungry in the morning?
She says she doesn't have an appetite in the morning. I can't eat also in the morning.
I don't think she might be having a problem because her weight is quite normal.
It's pretty healthy,
and then she doesn't make an effort not to eat. You know, it just happens when she wakes up, she doesn't have an appetite.
But what can we do then in that situation? Because a lot of people wake up in the morning, you don't have time to eat breakfast and you're rushing off to work. Now, to try and balance, we always hear that breakfast is the most important meal of the day since we were born. How can we then, substitute the kind of foods that we eat if we haven't eaten breakfast? Okay, before you answer, I'm going to take Matapelo from Cape Town. Matapelo, YilungeloLakho Lakho?
Mama, yona ke a lebone. Ke na le hore ke skuka se ka gati dijo.
Yeah, sis. Okay. All right. Siyabonga sicela ulalele kumabonekude wakho. Okay, she eats sometimes, but then she feels like vomiting. So she also has an appetite problem.
She feels nauseous.
Yeah, she feels nauseous.
She
If she
actually
tries
makes herself
and eats.
nauseous?
No. She
I
says
think
she
she-
tries
yeah.
to eat and then she feels very nauseous and feels like vomiting afterwards.
That might be something actually physically wrong with her. If for instance, there's a stomach ailment or an intestinal ailment, and you might be able to help me out on this, Precious, it might be something that's physically wrong with her. She actually might need to check that out. Because normally you're supposed to eat food and keep food in. If it's not anything wrong with the food, or if she's not eating abnormal qualities or eating slow enough, it should be something that her body could
Unless
handle.
she's pregnant, then she could have. Okay. All
No,
right. Precious.
another thing is she could be, because you tend to eat the same things, like around the
Awusichazele
same-
ngesiZulu, Precious.
No, kungenzeka ukuthi mhlambe kunento njanga umzimba wakho ongahambisani nayo. Yabona mayengazama ukuthi adle ezinye izinto lento la jwayele ukuyidla, mayedla okunye ukudla. Yabona ubona ukuthi unakhona uzofila nauseous na okuzothi akavomite mayedla ezinye izinto. Yeah, lezi zinto ajwayele ukuzidla ake aziyeke, yabona, and then adle okunye ukudla okuhlukile bese yabona ukuthi nakho
Kumphatha kanjani. Okay, Fezeni, let's take you before siya ku-ad break. Fezeni, Mpumalanga, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo mama njani?
Siyabonga sisi wami, siyaphila. Sicela usibuze umbuzo.
Mina nginenkinga ye-weight since ngiyi-teenager ngikhula.
Yebo sisi.
And manje ngikhonana nabo kuma-31, 32, but then ngiyahamba i-dietitian anginikeze izinto lezi ngokuthi kufanele ngiziphuze. The last time banginikeze even nama-injection, but still on top of that ngiba nenkinga ukuthi lezi zinto zenza ukuthi ngibe nausea, ngiphathwe nama-headaches.
Okay, siyabonga sisi wami, sicela ulale.
Okay.
Qhubeka sisi.
Bengithi angikwazi ukuthi ngi-exercise ngoba ama-joint ami abasekabahluku.
Okay, uweya usize omngakanani mhlambe sisi? How much is your body weight?
105.
105. Okay, sisi wami, sicela ulalele ngimabona kude wakho. All right, for now let's take another very quick ad break. Mbukela ungayindawo, siyabuya khona manje. Sinamukele futhi babukeli. We're still talking about eating disorders and how they can affect your life. My guests in studio are Precious Ngayana and Gilliam Walters deployed. To take part, mbukeli sithinte la ku 011-714-6918 noma 714-6919. Email yethu consumer@sabc.co.za. Usithinte ku Facebook Yilungelo na ku Twitter @Yilungelo. We're going to take a caller before we answer the previous caller's question. Siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo mama.
Yebo ma, siyakwamukela. Sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Umuntu uma angadli ahlanza kukhoswa yini?
Uma usicela usichazele kabanzi ma? Oh, we've lost our caller and we're still trying to get across. Okay, Precious, let's start by answering the previous caller's question. She's been seeing a dietitian. Now you're a dietitian and she got prescribed bamprescribe umuthi. Kodwa manje lo muthi osumgulisa uyamphalazisa and kodwa iweight yaqhubeka iyagain. What happened? What went wrong where?
I mean, wonke umuthi owuthathayo abanye abantu ba-reacta emithini ngendlela ehlukene. Yeah, so ngingathatha umuthi ungisebenzele mangiunikeza wena ukugulisa. I think ilento eyenzakalayo kusisi ukuthi lo muthi le i-dietitian amnikeze wona. Into efanele ayenze ukuthi abuyele khona umtshela ukuthi yazini le combination therapy onginikeze yona ayihambisani nami. Yabona saying angikhona ukuluza iweight and ngifeel nauseous all the time. So enye into ayishoyo ukuthi since ekulama programs because usisi uyachaza ukuthi usenalenkinga for iminyaka.
Since a teenager.
Kungenzeka ukuthi kuna misdiagnosis, yabona, la ungenzeka ukuthi una a metabolic syndrome, yabona, or a thyroid yakhe underactive. Yeah, so metabolism is very slow because there is medication because she could be insulin resistant as well. There is medication angayisebenzisa yokumsiza. And then that way once ethola the right medication mhlambe manje asengasuka kwi dietitian ayobona udoctor wangempela. So angazi noma usekwenzile lokho before but advise
ukuthi ayobona udoctor khona manje. Okay, asithatha uMakhosi from KwaZulu Natal. Makhosi, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho. Makhosi? All right, we seem to have lost uMakhosi. All right now.
And then lo munye wesibili ngizwe ethi kwenziwa yini ukuthi umuntu angadli omayedli uyahlanza yabona. So it's very difficult to try and say, maybe you know, because the other caller that got cut, she asked what happens if someone, whenever they eat, they just vomit.
Feel like vomiting. Much like the previous caller as well.
Yeah.
If somebody just feels like vomiting out of their own, it could be something that's wrong physically. Eating disorders focuses in the context of what from the psychological perspective is where somebody is actually perpetuating their own nauseousness. They're actually making themselves purge on their own.
So it's self-induced,
it's self-induced. So if somebody is eating food and they're presenting with a physical sensation of nausea, they have to investigate.
They have to
investigate. They have to go to a doctor and see what's going on there.
All right. Makhosi sikwamukele futhi kwilungelo lakho. Sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ubeke umbono.
Mina ngicela ukubuza ngisha i-kg ephezulu manje bengicabanga ukuthi ngehlisa i-weight manje ngaba khona inkinga.
Asizwe Makhosi, sicela usiphindele umbuzo futhi.
Ngithi mina ngicela ukubuza ukuthi angeke kunginike yini inkinga uma ngathiwa ngoba nginomzimba omkhulu.
Umkhulu kangakanani mhlambe Makhosi?
I-weight.
Umkhulu kangakanani mhlambe sesikhona sizokwazi na i-dietitian la uzokuphendula?
Ngisho 100 kg.
Okay, manje ufuna ukwazi ukuthi yini ongayenza ukuthi wehlise leyo weight?
Yebo.
Okay, sis Makhosi siyabonga, sicela ubuke lapho kumabona kude wakho. Precious, she's about 100 kgs and ufuna ukuluza weight, ufuna ukwazi ama best options ukuthi angeke azamgulise for her to lose weight.
I mean the basic thing makufanele uluze i-weight kulula ukuthi udle ukudla okunempilo okunomsoco. Yabona abantu kakhulu bathanda ukufry izinto, badla amaqanda no bacon ekseni, yabona nezinyama namapapa throughout. Otherwise mawuvuka nje ekseni uyidlele isoft porridge, emini ungadla into elight nyana, ebusuku uyidla mhlawumbe i-rice ne stir fry. Yabona lots of veggies together. Yabona awukhona ukugaina i-weight lapho. Umzimba uthola wonke umsoco odingayo and then I put i-pressure emzimbeni and then le extra weight with time ilokhu yehla. Akusho ukuthi mawu diet kumele ungadla even during your main courses usnack ngama fruits yabona, but nama fruits amaningi mawuzama ukwehlisa i-weight awalunganga, ama fruits agcwele ushukela. Ama veggies amaningi yiwo angcono.
Okay. Now, Gilliam, people and medical specialists, now I got this off your website, they are frequently confused by the differences between anorexia and bulimia nervosa. What causes that? And she also spoke about that there could be a misdiagnosis there with one of the callers that called in.
All right, Alicia, there's a very specific difference between anorexia and bulimia. If we take anorexia is the one that's the most easiest to kind of see overtly. Somebody that's suffering with anorexia nervosa, their weight has dropped so low that when they actually stand in front of you, you'll even question, you know, is this person too thin? Or why are they so thin? Why, you know, something's not right here. And if you then investigate further and you ask the right questions, you know, regarding eating pattern, their thoughts on shape and weight, you'll start to see that there's a very high anxiety regarding how they look and food and eating and things like that. That's your anorexia picture. Somebody that leans more towards bulimia could be somebody that you see in Spa. They could walk past you and you wouldn't even know because they physically present like
you and me,
like
most of the time, yeah.
They are not somebody that necessarily has a low weight, and that's what people need to understand. An eating disorder doesn't necessarily mean you're extra large or extra small. It could be people that you don't even know about. With bulimia, it's this.
Okay, Gulim, I want to take Mzingisi from Cape Town. Mzingisi, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho?
Yes, sisiwami kunjani?
Siyaphila bhuti wami, sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeke umbono.
Okay, sangumbuzi sisiwami. Man usislow lakho man uthethe exact lento ndinayo man. Mina ilapha esifubele njalo and kudala msitha lamayeza obheka ntontontonto.
Intoni sesifubeni bhuti?
Isitshisa esifubeni. Sometimes xa ndivomita kusekuphuma into ebugazanyana abantu bavomita ayeka. Kudala ndisitya lamayeza khanda unonwabile.
Okay, but sicela ulalele kumabona kude wakho. All right, we're going to take Okay, but all right, umamele kumabona kude wakho so kuphendula nje mesibuya kwi-cafe uyeva. All right, that was Umzingizi from Cape Town. Mbukeli sizawuthi shwi ey'tolo ungathi vu. Welcome back to our last segment Mbukeli. We continue nengxoxo yethu ukuzwakalisa imbono yenu uyazi ukuthi ungashayela ucingo la ku 0117146919 noma usithinte ku 7146918 ungasendela ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za, like our page, Facebook page, or send us a tweet at Yilungelo. Okay, now Precious, can you please quickly answer lo bhuti lo wase Cape Town uthi une acid ela and kade ethola medication kodwa imsiza uthi yina ngayenza?
Yeah, uthi una isishisa i-heartburn uthi qala used to vomit kube negazi ya kusho ukuthi kunesilonda. So once ube nesilonda kuyenze ukuthi isilonda siphole futhi kuyenze ukuthi singapholi depending on i type of medication now ukuthi uzinakekela kanjani. Yabona ama fizzy drinks and spicy food and fatty things ne stress kuyayenza ukuthi ulcer ibe worse. Abanye abantu kumele bathathe ama antacids yabona for life. Yabona so ukuthi uyilo umuntu fanele akwamukele ukuthi uzoyidinga le medication impilo yakhe yonke and akukho unusual, it's very common.
All right, and Gillian, let's talk about when people first come to you, what's the first thing that you recommend for them to do?
Well, first we do a proper assessment to see the extent of their problem and what's going on. If it's confirmed that they have an eating disorder, we usually recommend regular outpatient therapy, which includes coming to psychologists or psychological therapy, also meeting with a dietitian, and it's sometimes or at times necessary to get a doctor on the team as well so that they can monitor the physical and the vital
aspects
signs.
of side. Okay, we have Lizzie from Alexis. Lizzie, siyabamukela kuhlelo.
Yebo ninjani?
Siyaphila sisiwami, sicela usibuze umbuzo nombeke umbono.
Bengicela ukubuza zithi.
Yebo sis.
Nginomntwana we2 months ne. Lo mntwana ngimthole nge-cesarean seizure. Manje after lo mntwana lo ngagaina more kilos. And before lo mntwana lo bengihamba i-gym. So I don't know if it's healthy for me ukuthi ngibuyele e-gymini ngilo ngine-cesarean seizure na.
Okay, sisiwami siyabonga ulalele kumabona kude. Precious, well, Gilliam, she had a cesarean section and she's gaining weight, but she wonders, she doesn't know whether is it safe to go back to exercising after the C-section?
How long is the C-section?
About 2 months
About 2 months.
Oof, I'm not a medical doctor. I'd say she needs to go back to a doctor and check that with them.
Okay, Precious.
But another thing to check, if she's healed properly, you know, then it's fine, she can go back. Because the fact that you had a cesarean, it doesn't take anything away from your normal activities. I mean, once she's fully recovered, she can go on and continue and resume with her gym work.
Okay, all right, now let's talk about solutions. Please, what should we as people, as friends, as family look out for in signs of people maybe that are heading towards this disastrous eating disorders?
If you're trying to see whether a family or a family member or a friend has got this problem, you're going to look for specific behaviors. Try and identify the person's view on shape and weight, how they view food. At meal times, are they nervous? After they've eaten, do they run to the bathroom? Are they taking multiple showers in a day? Obviously, with younger kids, there's specific behaviors as well. You know, are they avoiding food or are they eating too much food? In terms of trying to help somebody, the biggest piece of advice that I could give people is to understand that eating disorders is not just either eating too much or too little food. These are really complex psychiatric conditions. These are people that struggle with, I mean, if it was a logical answer, if it was just a case of, well, learn to control your eating or learn not to diet, it would have been easy. I mean, what would be the need for specialists for treatment? It's not simple disorders. It's not just a case of, there's your problem, fix it.
Okay, Gilliam, let me just take our last caller. Sizakele siyakwamukela kuYilungelo Lakho.
Yes, awona sisi.
Siyaphila sisi, uyikhole ethi yokugcina namhlanje sicela umbuzo wakho.
Nginenkinga lapha njalo ekuseni mangivuka ngine trash umlomo kunamanzi amathe ebhida. manje umlomo wami ilower lip iyasha ibophu ngaphakathi.
Okay. Oh, ufuna ukwazi ukuthi mhlambe ngabe cha kwenziwa yini lokho ma?
Uthi ngabe kwenziwa yini?
Oh, okay, siyabonga masicela umamele kumabona kude wakho.
Yebo.
All right, Precious, what could be the cause of red lips? She wakes up with red swollen lips in the morning. She doesn't understand why. She's wondering if maybe it's an underlying food disorder somehow.
I wouldn't be able to say for sure, but it's very unweird. So I would suggest that she goes see a medical doctor. Yeah, because it could be something underlying.
Does she engage in purging behavior?
No, she hasn't mentioned. So overnight, that's
it's an overnight thing.
She wakes up and then the lips are swollen.
So it's something in the saliva.
Take it to a doctor.
Take it to a doctor. Okay, Precious, preventative measures. What can we do ukuthi size labantwana bethu ukuthi bangabi nalama eating disorders?
For mina i-group engithanda ukuyi-addressa ilaba abancane ngoba mawungabheka ukubhema abantu besifazane babengabhemi kuqala manje sekuyifashion and le fashion is among laba abancane ngoba ukubhema kuyenza ukuthi abantu baluze iweight ngoba there are two abantu besifazane they are known as emotional eaters thina siyadla noma singalambile so kunale genge edlayo njalo every hour or 2 hours badla something bese kuba khona le genge lena ebhemayo so laba ngoba baskipha ukudla ngokubhema so yeah and then they've learned ukuthi ngokubhema njalo then you stay thin and you don't go into this habit of always eating and gaining weight so for me ilento emakhaya mawunomuntu obhemayo uzama ukuthi why ubhema because naloko kubhema it's a psychological problem yabona uzothatha umuntu ubhema nje because ukubhema kuyabulala ibhaliwe ukuthi smoking kills yabona mar bayabhema ukuthi why would you want to while you so young yabona and ubheme a whole pack of cigarettes ngelanga.
Okay, your parting words, Gilliam. Where can they get help?
They can access the website www.eatingdisorderssouthafrica.com or they're more than welcome to phone me on Pretoria.
Now, you actually created that website and it's the only one available in South Africa. So big ups to that. I went on the website. It's got a whole host of information. Every type of eating disorder is there. We are in great detail. So thank you very much, Gilliam, for creating such a platform for us. That website again.
It's www.eatingdisorderssouthafrica.com.
Okay. Ama parting words wakho now sisithola when.
Oh, mina ngiyatholakala iwebsite yami ithi www.vegiesarus.co.za and yeah ababukeli emakhaya siyabanxusa ukuthi noma ubani kumele adle ngendlela ekseni mintambama na in between ungadla lokho kunye o mawunenkinga yokudla kakhulu uzama ukuthi udle ukudla okunomsoco okunempilo ngoba yabona mawudla ipizza yonke uyiwani or chocolate or ikheke angeke ungakhuluphala ngoba then maso ukhuluphele so ufeel bad yabona yiyo lento it's a vicious circle ukuthi awukhona ukuphuma kuyona
so qala wena uzicontrol kahle kahle ukuthi what you put in you need to start there by deciding what it is that you're going to put in so that you don't get to a point where it's actually a problem. Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me today. And thank you so much for the information that you've given us. All right, Mbugeli, we've come to the end of today's show. I would like to thank my studio guests for making their time to be here. Sibonge nani phela babukele emakhaya ukuthi nibe nathi kuze kube manje la ngembuzo enisibuze yona nisihlangane nathi futhi ngolesihlanu lapho usisanda ezobe ephethe olunye uhlelo la Ilungelo Lakho. Mbugeli, sizohlangana nawe futhi every Monday mangabe ufuna impinda yalolu hlelo from 9:30 kuya ku 10:30. Khona la ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure for myself Alisha Jale and the entire dedicated team libe ne weekend mnandi.
Yilungelela